The air aboard the docking platform of Zirion Prime was too still, too staged, like a theater before the actors spoke. Light from 1,000 ceremonial spires cast a filtered violet glow over the obsidian landing deck, illuminating nothing natural. It was beauty as a weapon, elegance forged to intimidate. Yelena Markova stepped out alone. No escort, no guards, no flag to trail behind her. Only the low hum of her boots on black alloy and the faint hiss of her diplomatic vessel sealing behind her. 3 Zirion dignitaries stood waiting, tall, glass-skinned, and overdressed. Not a translator among them. The insult was subtle, almost tasteful. Almost. Yelena let the silence stretch. Ambassador Markova. One finally said in accented standard, bowing with too little depth. Welcome to Zirion Prime. The court awaits. She inclined her head. Let's not keep royalty waiting. They led her through echoing corridors of black steel, the walls veined with bioluminescent filaments that pulsed faintly like a living thing. Statues lined the walk, victories carved in frozen arrogance. Not one human face among them. Yelena said nothing, but she noted everything. The camera nest tucked behind shadowed archways, the shifting resonance of pressure plates underfoot, the guards dressed like ceremonial furniture, but carrying weapons hot. The Zirion Empire knew how to impress. It didn't know how to hide its teeth. Her quarters were luxurious, on the surface, draped silk, floating orbs of light, a scent in the air that almost masked the metal beneath. She waved a hand. Clear atmosphere filter, she said, and the pleasant haze dissipated, revealing the sterile edge of the room's real function, containment. A quiet beat vibrated through her neural implant. She was being monitored. Of course. She turned to the window, if it could be called that. A projection of Zirion's capital city shimmered. Endless towers, bridges looping through artificial sky, banners fluttering with the king's crest. Every image perfectly calculated. Glass castles, she muttered. From a hidden pocket, she pulled a thumb-sized capsule. Inside, 10 black micro-devices, indistinguishable from lint. She placed one beneath the edge of the ceremonial vase on the side table, another behind the drape's metallic fold. The rest vanished across the room in smooth, practiced motions, not surveillance. Triggers, fail-safes. She wasn't here as a soldier, but she hadn't forgotten how to act like one. Later, as the Zirion sun dipped below the domed horizon, a summons arrived, holographic, cold, official. The king will receive you at the Star Throne. Yelena looked at the projected words and didn't move for a long time. Then she slipped on her diplomatic coat, midnight black, no insignia save a Terran microcrest at the collar. She adjusted the cuffs, hiding the last of her implants beneath the sleeves. The Star Throne chamber was designed to disorient, massive, circular, a cathedral of steel and starlight. Pillars rose like the bones of a dead god. Alien nobility lined the curved galleries, whispering, posturing, watching her descend the central ramp toward the elevated throne. King Valix IX reclined above, dressed in dark robes embroidered with comet silk. His crown hovered an inch above his head, suspended by unseen tech. His expression was that of a predator bored of chewing. He didn't rise. Earth sends a woman, he said. It wasn't a question. Yelena stopped 5 paces short of the dais. Earth sends what it must. Laughter rippled through the court. Valix waved a hand. You walk unescorted, armed with words. A fragile blade. I've found words more precise than any plasma bolt, she replied, and considerably harder to detect before they cut. The laughter paused. Valix's eyes narrowed. We offered no escort. You arrived with none. Does Earth no longer value its representatives? Earth values balance, she said. Too many guards suggest fear. Too few arrogance. One, she touched her chest, suggests resolve. A beat, then quiet murmurs. Valix leaned forward. And what resolution does Earth bring to this meeting? Yelena's gaze never wavered. To remind you, Your Grace, that our silence these last decades should not be mistaken for weakness. We remember the last time we were challenged. He smirked. Ah, yes, the Terran retaliation. Ghost stories. Ruined moons. But legends don't frighten kings. No, she said, but consequences might. After the audience, she returned to her chamber. The recording devices hummed again. She ignored them. Instead, she opened her diplomatic satchel and removed a black slab of alloy. Terran issue, unmarked, touch reactive. She tapped once. A tiny light blinked. Her retinal implant displayed a message only she could see. Baba Yaga protocol. Authorized. Status. Observe and confirm. Use discretion. She tapped again. The message vanished. She sat by the projection window. Outside, the image flickered briefly, then corrected. A glitch intentional. She whispered to the glass. Tomorrow, they'll offer me poison or promises. I wonder which is more dangerous. No one answered. But far below, deep within the floating fortress, an assassin prepared his blade. And far above, cloaked Terran satellites pivoted their optics toward Zirion Prime. Patient as wolves in the dark, the throne chamber was warmer this time. Not in temperature, but in tension. Yelena stood again beneath the hovering crown of King Valix IX, his gaze sharpened by curiosity now, not contempt. Around them, the imperial court lounged in silence, eyes like cold stones, watching the human make her next move. 2 guards flanked her, ceremonial halberds humming faintly, more for show than protection. She didn't need protection. She needed time, observation. Valix gestured lazily from his floating throne. You return without gifts, without tribute, without fanfare. Tell me, Terran, what exactly did Earth send you for? Yelena's voice was calm, clipped. I bring what Earth always brings, warning before the wind shifts. The court shifted, intrigued. Valix leaned forward. You speak like a storm prophet, but this is not your planet, and I do not believe in your thunder. She gave the faintest shrug. You don't need to believe it. You only need to remember what happens when it arrives. The murmur in the gallery rippled again, nervous this time. Valix stood slowly, his robes trailing behind him like liquid night. Do you truly believe Earth still holds weight here in this quadrant? You've been quiet for decades. Traders whisper your people are fractured. Some say Earth has turned inward, weak, irrelevant. Let them whisper, she replied. Whispers are what we leave behind when we pass. He chuckled, a low, predatory sound. You speak boldly for someone standing alone, so far from home. I'm never far from home, she said. I carry it with me. Valix stopped pacing, his smile fading just slightly. The truth, he said, stepping down 1 marble tier toward her, is that your people are no longer feared. You come with words, not fleets. Please, not demands. And you stand here in my house, speaking to me as though Earth has teeth. Her reply was ice and velvet. Earth has teeth, she said. We simply choose not to bear them. When the audience ended, the court dissolved into social ritual. Brittle laughter, coded glances, quick departures. Valix's ministers fanned out to whisper strategies. Yelena was escorted to a private side chamber, high in the Tower of Accord. The room was smaller, quieter, outfitted with alien elegance and Terran concessions. A familiar chair design, a neutral temperature, a subtle floral scent not native to this side of the galaxy. A man waited inside. Not Zirion. Not alien at all. He stood as she entered, his expression caught somewhere between surprise and admiration. Ambassador, he said. It's been a long time. Yelena looked at him. Dr. Emre Talon. I thought you defected. I relocated, he corrected. There's a difference. He gestured toward a glass table, where 2 cups of glowing amber liquid sat untouched. They sent me to make you comfortable. You were never good at that. He smiled weakly. I was better than most. Yelena didn't sit. What do they want? She asked. Talon exhaled. The king believes Earth's tech, especially your old wormhole gate schematics, could stabilize his northern front. He wants your cooperation, or at least your silence. And if he can't have either? Talon hesitated. Then he'll make an example of you. She tilted her head slightly. Will you help him? I'm already helping, he said. I've been making sure the poison doesn't reach your plate, that your quarters aren't vented into vacuum. that your ship hasn't been pulled apart for black market secrets. Yelena approached the table, picked up a cup, sniffed, paused. Then she looked at him. Would you drink this? Talon didn't move. Didn't think so, she said, setting the cup back down. Later, Valix sat with his inner circle in the hall of Starlit War. The room was stark, shaped like a warship bridge, its walls lined with holographic campaign maps and trophies from 100 conquered worlds. She's dangerous, murmured Admiral Sten. Not because she threatens us directly, but because she doesn't need to. She's letting fear do the work. She's alone, said Minister Rylek. What can she do? Valix stood by the projection table, arms folded, watching the model of Earth blink silently at the edge of the Andromeda expanse. She's not alone, he said. The room quieted. She's too calm, too confident. Either she's mad or she's here as a signal. The lights dimmed. He turned to face them. Kill her, he said. Quietly. No spectacle. No trial. It must look like accident or diplomacy. The Empire does not bow to myths. Sten shifted uneasily. What if she is what they say? Valix raised an eyebrow. And what do they say? She has a name, Sten said. Not her real one. The old one. The one soldiers still whisper when they talk about the ghost of Ravos. The fall of Clade T-12. The silence after Red Frost. Valix sneered. Baba Yaga. The room said nothing. She's a diplomat now, Rylek offered. Not a killer. Valix's eyes burned. Then let her die like one. Yelena lay back on her bed, still dressed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling's slow rotation of projected constellations. She spoke aloud, though no one was there. They'll try tonight. A soft chime pulsed in her skull. A private Terran link activated. Input code. She blinked the pattern. Code accepted. A silent message unfolded across her vision. Observation confirms. Assassination order issued at 22:17 local time. Primary method. Engineered accident. Contingency. Nerve agent in chamber airflow. She closed her eyes. Proceed with Baba Yaga protocol. Protocol active. Somewhere below, a pressure seal clicked as her private air circulation was rerouted. Through her own countermeasures, the first trap would fail. The second would miss. But the third, well, they wouldn't even see that one coming. She turned on her side and whispered into the dark. Let the king play his game. I've brought my own board. The tea house at the edge of the Royal Sky Gardens was far too quiet, too peaceful, like a graveyard before the first shovel hits dirt. Yelena entered under the guise of diplomacy. Velvet gloves, a measured pace, eyes steady. The two Zirion guards posted outside didn't follow. They sealed the doors behind her without a word. Inside, incense coiled upward in silver spirals. The walls were made of translucent crystal, refracting soft hues of blue and gold, almost enough to distract from the fact that this was not a place for politics. It was a place for endings. The High Seer waited cross-legged on a floating cushion. His skin shimmered like wet stone. His eyes were milky and distant, but Yelena didn't believe for a second he couldn't see. A small table hovered between them, bearing 2 porcelain cups of steaming amber tea. The seer gestured with a bony hand. Ambassador, sit, share clarity. She sat, silent, and let her hands rest atop her knees. She didn't touch the tea. I admire your people, the seer said. So fragile, so loud, and yet still standing, still here. Earth doesn't kneel easily, she said. Earth bleeds easily. Yelena watched the steam rise. The seer smiled gently. We infuse the tea with truth, you know. It clears the mind, sharpens perception. She tilted her head. And what else is in it? He chuckled. Only what's needed. The silence stretched again. Finally, she reached forward, cupped her hands around one of the tea vessels, lifted it halfway, then slowly, delicately, placed it before him instead. She took the other. A small courtesy. A tiny act of diplomacy. The seer's smile twitched. He raised a cup, bowed slightly, and drank. So did she. 5 minutes later, the seer was dead. It began at the banquet. Zirion's famed celestial feast, where emissaries were paraded before the elite like ornaments. Alien music coiled through the air like a hallucination. Dancers, aglow with bioluminescent paint, spun between tables of delicacies carved from extinct fauna. Yelena arrived late. Whispers followed her entrance like smoke. A few bowed. Most stared. She took her seat at the far end of the royal table, exactly where they had placed her, isolated, closest to the exit, easy to remove. King Valix noticed. Of course. Ambassador, he said, raising a crystal goblet. We feared you had declined our invitation. I don't decline much, she replied, but I'm careful what I accept. The goblet clinked. Polite laughter scattered like broken glass. Dishes arrived in stages. Fruits laced with hallucinogens, meats genetically altered for effect, wines older than Earth's oceans. Yelena touched none of it. Across the table, a Zirion minister collapsed into his plate, convulsing. Another clutched their throat, eyes wide. No one moved to help. This was normal here. Testing, filtering, measuring. Yelena folded her napkin once and set it aside. Her internal implant blinked once. Trigger detected. Corridor A7, security bypass. Intrusion pattern confirmed. Hostile. She stood, excused herself quietly, and stepped into the hallway. As she moved through the outer corridors, her diplomatic cloak shimmered, its fibers activating stealth protocol, dulling her thermal and EM signature. She passed under a surveillance drone. It didn't register her. Another alert blinked behind her eyelids. Assassins en route. Room 42A. You were scheduled to be there. Her hologram had been rerouted, projected there now, sipping a drink, performing small gestures, blinking, smiling. Perfect mimicry. 3 shadows slipped into the room a moment later. She watched them from the vents above. Silent, precise. Zirion elite. One plunged a blade through the illusion's chest. The hologram flickered. The second assassin paused. Too late. Yelena triggered the trap. The room sealed. Gases from the walls. Her own compound. Non-lethal. Nerve disruptor. Enough to paralyze. Enough to make them talk. Back in her quarters, she activated the second layer. A slim black case unfolded on the desk, displaying a portable quantum relay. A device banned in this sector, but standard issue in Terran Black Ops. She tapped a pattern on the surface. A shimmering interface opened. Earth answered. A man appeared in her vision, face lined, eyes steel. Status, he asked. Confirmation. Assassination attempt failed. Protocol underway. Local response? Contained. Psychological ops effective. They begun to whisper. He hesitated. Do they suspect? No, she said, but they will soon. Recommendations? Phase 2, she said. Soft disruption. Shadow strikes. They need to feel the myth again. The man gave a single nod. Proceed. Silence the palace if needed. Do not escalate to orbital unless provoked. The connection severed. She closed the relay, locked it, sat still for several moments. Then she whispered, They thought I came alone. That night, beneath the floating palace of Zirion Prime, the planetary defense grid momentarily blinked offline. No alarms were triggered. No one noticed. But in orbit, 3 Terran stealth drones realigned, adjusting focus, triangulating coordinates, recording everything. In the early morning, Yelena stepped onto her balcony. The city was waking. Skies filled with flocks of bioengineered birds. Sirens hummed low. A line of royal banners flapped in the artificial wind. Her implant beeped once. The seer's body has been removed. Cause of death, natural. She allowed herself a small breath. Not relief. Resolution. The palace had drawn first blood. Quietly, politely, with silk and ceremony and poison. She had responded. Now came the part they feared most. What happened when she stopped pretending to be a diplomat? End of Chapter 3. The chamber beneath the throne room had no name. On imperial records, it did not exist. Even the servants who polished the obsidian walls above were forbidden to speak of it. Here, secrets were buried alive. And now, something had awakened. Yelena stood before the triple-sealed door, one palm pressed flat to its metallic surface. Her Terran implant interface with the old system, archaic, rusting tech hidden beneath the Zirion's elegant skin. Their arrogance was their weakness. They never thought anyone could infiltrate from the bottom up. Access granted. The door hissed open. Beyond, the silence was suffocating. No lights, just a faint pulse of dormant machines. Ancient relics of a forgotten war. A prison, or perhaps a vault. Yelena entered without hesitation. Minutes earlier, the palace had erupted in confusion. The High Seer's death had triggered a silent purge. Ministers locked themselves behind force fields. Guards tightened their patrols. Valix, in his fury, ordered internal audits and interrogations of his own elite. Yet no one could explain how a simple Terran diplomat bypassed every layer of surveillance, toxin screened her own bloodstream, and vanished into the palace's secure understructure. The king roared, "She's not a woman, she's a weapon." Someone in the court whispered a name, Baba Yaga. It spread like rot. No one laughed. Yelena navigated the corridor's jagged twists. She moved like she belonged here, each step deliberate, silent, inevitable. At the corridor's heart, she found what she came for, a relic from the First Contact War, a Terran black box, encased in crystalline alloy, smothered in containment runes, abandoned for 50 years beneath alien stone. She brushed away a thick layer of dust, fingers trailing the faded insignia. TFS Karen, the ship that vanished during the Third Expansion War. Lost, presumed destroyed. But its core had survived, and with it, all the encrypted data the Federation needed. She tapped her wrist module. The code decrypted. Streams of red light flowed into her lens. Tactical maps, topography scans, sensor logs, weapon caches, but most importantly, evidence of what the Zirion had hidden, of how they used Terran POWs in early hybridization experiments, silenced by time and politics. This was more than leverage. It was her casus belli. The relay on her hip crackled softly. A voice filtered through. "Markova, update." She answered in a low murmur. "Payload recovered. Confirmed. Phase 3 is go. Any casualties?" "Only the ones they sent." A pause. Then, "Any recognition?" Yelena glanced around the chamber. "They're beginning to remember who I am." She emerged an hour later, cloaked once again in diplomatic silk. No blood on her hands. No weapon drawn. But something had shifted in the air. The palace felt colder. More afraid. A Zirion aide approached her in the corridor. "Ambassador, the king, he requests your presence." She turned slowly, raised one eyebrow. "Does he request or summon?" The aide hesitated. "He asks with urgency." "Then lead." The throne room was emptier this time. Less pomp, no performers. No ministers in radiant robes. Only Valix, seated high on his star-forged seat, 2 armored guards at his side. Yelena walked straight into the middle of the room and stopped. "Your Majesty." The king did not rise. "You move like a shadow, Terran. And yet, I still see you. You poison my seer. You slip past locked doors. You walk like death wears your face." Yelena gave him a thin smile. "Flattery." "No," Valix said, voice dropping. "A warning. You're too late for warnings, Valix." She stepped forward. "Just once." The guards tensed. Valix raised a hand. "And what name should I use now? Diplomat? Or Butcher?" "I answer to the truth," she said. "And the truth is this. You tried to erase us, long before we knew your stars. You took prisoners from the Karen. You cut them open. You studied their minds. I found your records." His expression tightened. "That was before my reign." "Then clean your throne before you sit in it." A long silence followed. Valix broke it. "You're here to threaten me?" "No, I'm here to give you a choice." She drew a small disc from her robe and activated it. A hologram shimmered to life. Images of tortured Terrans, hybrid corpses, failed clones, dates, coordinates, signatures. "Send this to your fleet," she said. "Every admiral, every system. Let them see what you buried." His voice turned icy. And if I don't, then I won't have to send it, Yelena said, because by tomorrow your own people will. They fear me more than you now. I only need to wait. The king stood. He was tall, imposing, born of a species designed to rule. But Yelena didn't flinch. You want war? Valix hissed. I want truth, justice, and if you force it, yes, I'll give you fire too. She turned her back on him, walked away, unharmed. That night, across half a dozen systems, the black box data was broadcast anonymously. Within hours, protests erupted in the outer colonies. Governors resigned. Several royal houses went silent. And on Zerion Prime, 2 of the king's closest advisors disappeared. No alarms, no witnesses, just their seals left on their bloodless thrones. In the darkness of her room, Yelena finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. She looked into the mirror and saw not the diplomat, not the assassin, just a woman who had once buried her own sister, victim of a Zerion lab. She remembered the child's last breath. That was when Baba Yaga had been born, not in some myth, not in a forest, but in the cold vacuum of space, in a war no one survived. And now she was back,